Hi everyone, my name is Jessica and I'm going to show you how I make soft, rich gingerbread cookies. So what we're starting with these cookies will be 1 cup of butter. I use unsalted. And we're going to cream all of that butter with 1 cup of granulated sugar. However, I use baker's sugar, or I am for this recipe. And then what we're gonna do is throw in 1 egg, cage-free of course. We'll have 1 cup of dark molasses. And then we're gonna throw in 2 tablespoons of white vinegar. And now what we're gonna do, now that the wet mixture is nice and creamy, we want 5 cups of flour. My flour here is pre-sifted. And we're gonna slowly sift this in along with some of the other dry ingredients. In addition to the flour, we want baking soda. And baking soda is activated in heat rather than when mixing with wet ingredients. We want 1.5 teaspoons of this baking soda. And in addition to that, we're going to want 1/2 teaspoon of salt. We'll have 2 teaspoons of ground ginger. We want 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon and 1 teaspoon of ground cloves. And these cloves actually were ground right here at home by my mother. And then we're going to add in the rest of the flour. There we go. And now this is getting really full, so this is going to be a slow churn. You see that? Look how much delicious gingerbread cookies that is going to make. We'll let that go for a couple minutes. Let's actually use this flour that got all over the place. And what we're gonna do is actually take all of this dough and we are gonna split it into 2. We're gonna flatten them out, and usually you would wrap the 2 flattened mounds of dough in plastic wrap, but we're actually all out of plastic wrap, I believe. So I'm just gonna wrap them in a couple of layers of parchment paper. There we go. Flour's helping so not too much sticks to the counter. Let's have this. Doesn't have to be perfect because it's all going in the oven. Eventually, not quite yet. Because after we're done wrapping these in parchment paper for me, hopefully plastic wrap for you, we're gonna refrigerate the dough for about 1.5 to 2 hours, and then we'll be back to cut the dough into cute little shapes, throw it in the oven, and I'll show you just how fluffy and soft these can be. And into the fridge they go. You can see, unlike before, the dough is now nice and firm. Doesn't fall apart quite as easily as it did before. And before I roll it out to start cutting out our pretty Christmas shapes, I'm going to sprinkle some powdered sugar over the counter. And I'm using powdered sugar instead of flour because, as my mother informed me, flour will make the dough more tough I have my rolling pin here. Let's just roll this out. And I want the gingerbread dough to be about a quarter of an inch thick. It can be up to half an inch thick, but you don't want it too thin. And of course, if you make it too thick, it's probably not going to bake very well. I think that's probably perfect. Just over a quarter of an inch if my untrained eye is correct. And today what I'm going to be using is I have this star cut out, a snowflake, a gingerbread man, and a Christmas tree. If your dough sticks to the counter a bit, that's fine. Just reshape it in your hands. It won't affect the way that it bakes. I'm actually wondering at this point if I should grab a spatula for these. This is getting sticky. That's my mother helping out as always. There, see, don't those look so much nicer? As I talk to myself, because I'll probably just speed through this part, because who wants to see me do this?
Jessica likes gingerbread cookies in September.
So does she. We each eat half. And if somebody eats a little more than half, well, you make more. And then you're just gonna put the remaining dough into a ball, flatten it out, and just do this again and again until you just can't get any more cookies from it. Usually what I do with the remaining dough is just smush it into your standard cookie. It tastes the same, right? Now, if you're something of a perfectionist and you want these shapes to just come out perfectly, flour would work better than powdered sugar. And the thicker your sheets of dough are, the better they hold their shape as you move them around. Maybe with the next set of dough, we can use flour and you'll see the difference. Next, we're going to place these on the baking sheet. And what my mother and I always do is we actually put parchment paper on our baking sheets, kind of reshape whatever one's messed up, because I was just a bit too enthusiastic. As you can see, not a whole lot of space needs to be between each cookie because they're not going to spread out much. They're going to rise. All right, and we are going to bake this at 350 for about 10 minutes. I'll show you what they look like when they're done. Look how beautiful and brown they are. That cookie fell apart a bit. I actually probably smushed it with the oven mitt, but that's okay. There will be more. Even fresh out of the oven, I can pick it up. It's hot, so don't do that, but I can. All right, everybody, I've decided to show you how the dough is going to work with flour instead of powdered sugar. Same as before, I'm just going to sprinkle the flour. That is not much at all. Sprinkle the flour all over the place. Get some on my hand. Rub it on the rolling pin. And same as before, we're gonna roll this out to about 1/4 of an inch thick. This one's much harder. It's been in the fridge longer. For those of you looking for a workout prior to eating the cookies, it's in the making. There we go. So maybe the key is leaving it in the fridge a bit longer than 2 hours. Because look at that. Look how perfect that cutout is. I changed my mind, folks. We're gonna start leaving gingerbread dough in the fridge for 2.5 to 3 hours. Because look at that. Tell your mothers. Mine's standing right here, scrutinizing my every move.
Scrutinizing.
This makes a world of difference. Aren't you all so glad you're witnessing this? See, and the longer the dough's out, the less easy it is to work with. It's not sticking in there anymore. But I can still pull it right off the counter, and that's probably the flour. All right, let's go again. I am recording, right? And just so you all know, in case you haven't noticed yet, I am an amateur baker. I have never made a meringue in my life. Cookies are my specialty, and cookies are everyone's specialty, I'm sure. So again, colder the dough is, the more successful you will be. Not in life, but in making cookies. And that, everybody, is how you make gingerbread cookies. Are you done yet?